This is the GPL podcast, part of the Pull Tab Sports family.
You know, I think there is some shenanigans happening in the goalie community. Are you going to speak on that?
In the goalie community. Oh,
a former goalie?
You know I got to ride with Goalie Nation, but...
Okay, we got to complete the same question. Duck, duck.
Goose.
Oh!
It ain't gray duck, it's goose.
But the Big Ten's a bad conference. That's a joke. If this gets clipped, that's a joke.
no.
We're definitely cooking that one now.
Now, here's Jupiter and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 244. Well, Viggs, we're kind of going in a different direction tonight, not talking hockey right off the bat.
Yeah, we've got Derek Burns from Dinkytown Athletes joining us tonight to talk all things NIL. They've had a big month so far with a couple special announcements that they've been able to work out, and it's exciting time for University of Minnesota athletics.
Well, let's bring him in. Let's bring him right in.
Underway here.
Derek Burns from. Wait, let's press the right button. There we go. There he is from Dinkytown Athletes.
Hey guys,
nice to finally meet you, Derek.
very good to meet you. Good to be virtually face to face. Put some face to the many emails. Appreciate the support, guys.
Well, you know, we did a special kind of thing together this summer when hockey came on board, and it was very successful. The GPLers really came through on that program, and I'm so glad to be part of that when the hockey part of Dinkytown Athletes started.
Yeah, it was a really good collaboration to be able to launch support for hockey. And when the minute we started talking about it, everybody said you have to get with Go for Puck Live. This is you guys have the audience, you guys are connected, they well respected, etc. So I'm so glad we were able to partner on that. Really appreciated you guys getting the word out and plugging us in with your audience.
There was a generous donor who matched up to a pretty nice amount. It turned out to work really well, and we're proud to be part of it, and it's glad to kick it off. But Viggs, it's not just this. It's not so simple. There's just a lot of pieces to this, isn't there, Viggs?
Yeah, I think so. Everything is really evolving with the NIL space and just trying to figure out what's going to be the right fit for Minnesota. You know, we often joke that Minnesota compliance is one of the strictest in the country. I think if you had a ranking, you know, you might say they're number one. So the approach that Minnesota take is maybe different than some of the SEC schools take. And I think what Derek and his group are doing is setting up the institution for something sustainable and something that's going to be really successful long term. And I think this like Duck Duck beer promotion with Grey Duck and now the vodka sales, you know, I think that's a sign that Minnesota can come together and support our athletes here. And it's going to be something, maybe not an immediate impact to hockey, but it's going to be something that impacts them long term.
Yeah, we have 4 different revenue streams coming into the collective, and passive income is the last one we've developed, which is brand collaborations. And we've had a really fun and encouraging last couple weeks launching our beverage partnership, and it's gotten a lot of beyond just, I think, the potential financial benefit, it's helped us get a lot of exposure. Just because connecting over beer, I guess, is a good way to connect with people. So it's gotten people talking. It's gotten people to pay attention to this. Let's be honest. I mean, there's a lot of negativity around NIL, and people a lot of times I think would rather plug their ears and try and ignore it or forget about it or whatever. So, but hopefully we can dispel some of that, tonight. But definitely a really exciting last couple of weeks, kind of wrapping around our beverage launch. And yes, we're taking a very sustainable approach to this. We're building something that will last, that's very supportive to the current athletes. We are doing it the right way, but that doesn't mean we can't be competitive. After 16 months in this, I can tell you that we don't need to cheat in order to compete. It's kind of our myth that we bust, and I can go into detail, but just rest assured we're building something sustainable for sure.
So sorry, my internet might be a little wonky here. If I drop or go, you guys just keep going. One thing Coach Motzko talked about at the media day a couple of weeks ago is like, 90% of this stuff are just small little things, NIL, like somebody like a Cooley getting a Chipotle deal for free Chipotle for a year. But you don't hear about that stuff because all people hear about are the big football things, the ridiculous things. But really, 95% of this are small things like that, and what you guys are doing that sustain the whole, or like the backbone of everything.
Yeah, initially, I mean, a little over a year ago when we did the research, it's hard. First of all, it's difficult to get solid financial information, but from what we're able to glean, I mean, we kind of had it as 96% of what's going on in NIL is not the big headline grabbing deal between the football recruit at SEC school X that's getting seven figures for whatever. That's what grabs the headlines, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what people think all NIL is. And although there's a little bit of that happening, and by the way, a lot of those headline grabbing deals there's more than meets the eye. I'm not saying there isn't big deals out there, but very often if you back channel that, you find out that there's some holes. But anyway, you're exactly right. I mean, 96% of what's going on in NIL is getting, real support, things like appearances, social endorsements, brand partnerships, fan engagements, exclusive content, videos for members like our members and different collectives. That's what NIL is for the most part.
And really similar to what we did this summer, we got a lot of people to help donate, get on board. And you're like, yeah, well, you can have Justin Close for your podcast.
Yep.
And it worked out just great for us.
Yep.
It was just, it wasn't a ton of effort on our part. Let's just work together, put a few things up, put a page up, get people to talk about it. And it worked out really well. And that was a very cool case of how NIL could work.
Yeah, I think that a couple things. This is the new way to support student athletes. In my generation, I was a student athlete at the university a generation ago, and in our generation, the coaches and the boosters help us get jobs. They were actually real jobs. We had to go show up and work, but they we had a connection there, and boosters raised money for a new weight room and the new locker room upgrades and such. And I know that still goes on, but this is the new way to support student athletes. And the myth number one, which you're kind of getting at here, is that student athletes are not just paid for doing nothing. This isn't, we're just paying them because they're on the team, what have you. By NCAA rules, they have to be doing something to earn the compensation. And so that's number one, is we're getting support to the student athletes in a new way for this generation. But the other side of it is like, what do you as a fan or a donor or someone who's connected get for that? And it's access to the athletes. So if you're a hardcore fan that wants content that's not available to the average fan, in other words, meet and greets and autographs and special memorabilia and retro jerseys that we're going to have out later, and exclusive content, interviews, day in the life content, that sort of thing. It's that access to the athletes. Think of anything like a fan club for your favorite band, whatever. I mean, it's the same model. So access to these athletes that wasn't available before. That's what we can offer for it. But at the same time, it's getting the athletes support.
And there's Composer. I just bought a 12-pack of Duck Duck beer yesterday.
All right.
Thank you, Composer.
Let us know how it is.
Vigs, do you like the beer? You had it?
Yeah, I had it at the release at Stubborn Herbs that Dinkytown Athletes put on. And then I enjoyed one during the pregame for the Michigan-Minnesota game on Saturday. I found it at Huntington Bank and brought one to my seats and showed it to all my season ticket holders around me. And they went out and bought some Duck Duck beer as well. So it's a great light lager. If you're going to drink a light lager, I would not go get some Denver water. I would not go get St. Louis water. I would go get some Minnesota water and enjoy that and support your state. So I think it's a great beer for that. And it's not going to be the GPL beer of the week every week. It's something we do here, Derek. I lean to things that are more Imperial Stouty or big IPA.
Understood.
But it's in the rotation now.
Excellent.
And I'm a beer snob. So if it had off flavors, I would not be saying that. But it's a
Okay.
very clean beer, which is what you're looking for in that style.
Great. Well, it's good to hear that that's what they were going for, is the widest appeal, and it's a tailgate bonfire barbecue crusher basically. And I would, my sales pitch on it is it's not a giant macro, batting headache ingredients, that sort of thing. It's a good clean crusher that with quality ingredients. It's in Minnesota made, and you're supporting Gopher student athletes.
Derek, what's your background? What got you into all of this?
Yeah. Well,
Dinkytown Athletes.
yeah, first thing, I was a student athlete at University of Minnesota, little over 20 years ago, and so lifelong, obviously now fan of Gopher sports. That's my passion. But work wise, myself and my business partner, who started this, worked together and owned a business for 20 years together. We were 2 of 5 owners. That business was sold a little over 2 years ago. And our intention was to take a little bit of a break before taking on our next business venture. And I was connected with a pretty big group of kind of diehard football Gopher fans, and through Gopher Gridiron Radio, which is owned by Luke
Mm-hmm.
Buer, and I do a guest spot on there for analysis. And that group of people knew that NIL is coming, and every Power 5 conference team is going to need a collective, and every major Division I hockey program is going to need a collective. So they knew that the need was there, and this was kind of a well-meaning group of fans, and they didn't have anybody to lead it. So they asked if Rob and I would be interested, because we're diehard Gopher fans, and we were kind of talked into it a little bit, but it's a passion for us. So we took it on as a passion project and thought, this is a way we can give back. I got support when I was a student athlete in those ways that I talked about, and this is something that I can do to support the current student athletes. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing it.
All right, Vigs.
So,
what
Derek,
you got?
how's your expertise translated? Like, what were some of the hardest parts of setting up Dinkytown Athletes? Because it seemed like at the start of NIL, there was almost like a land rush of
Yeah.
people trying to figure out solutions for everything.
Yeah.
And I know, the Gopher hockey alumni were a little uncertain about how Dinkytown Athletes was going to grow and if they were going to be sufficient. So, can you kind of talk us through that?
Yeah, we took 6 months before we launched to build bridges with the university itself. So I don't want to give a really dry background explanation, but in short, collectives cannot be officially tied to universities. It has to be an arm's length agreement, because the universities themselves can't be involved in the contracts and the compensation of athletes. So you have to have this kind of odd third party known as a collective in order to be able to do that. But we wanted to do it right. We wanted the university to know what we were doing, know what our intentions were, make those relationships so that they could help us in a compliant way. They would know what we were doing, and let's do it right. And it's really important, I think, to have one collective at a school. There's really been a lot of evidence now showing that if you have multiple collectives, that's a recipe for disaster. They end up eating each other up, and they'll end up folding into one collective anyway. It's too confusing for fans. So we wanted to kind of let's be the one collective. Let's do it right. Let's have those relationships. So that was kind of the background. And frankly, my business experience that I had prior to this, there are some business principles to translate, but this is definitely has been a startup, which I had not had startup experience. And my takeaway is that if I didn't have a passion in this, I would not be doing a startup. It's a lot of work, and there's not a lot of resources, but I've enjoyed it because I like the content and I have a passion for what it is. But yeah, I guess those learning many things along the way. And just to touch on what you said, Eric, there's been a lot of oxygen spent on how do you do this, and what's the right recipe, and what's going to win. And we're not experts, but in looking at what's working and what's not working elsewhere and trying to fit something to this market, we really feel like we have a good recipe, and we think the solution's right in front of us. And it's a blend of donors and fan members and business partnerships and that passive income. So those 4 things together I think is a good recipe for success for this market.
Yeah, I know Mark Coyle always talks about like the 5 buckets of revenue for his athletic department, ticket sales,
Yep.
donations, institutional funds, TV revenue. And I think, for Dinkytown Athletes to identify that they have buckets of revenue to pursue as well is really smart. I think, the growth has been nice to see throughout the year because, everybody's trying to get their feet going on this.
Yep.
And just seeing the support rise up the last couple of weeks. I know the athletes I've talked to about it are very excited about how it's going to impact them down the future. And when they're alums, seeing this for their program as well.
Yeah, it's another myth probably in those top 3 myths that we get are Minnesota doesn't have any NIL, and they've got nothing going, and that's just not true. I would say because we're not grabbing those headlines of trying to steal the recruit or make a big inducement or something, we're probably not making those headlines, which I'm proud of the fact that we aren't. But we've only been we've only really officially launched just over a year, and we already have almost 500 activations. So that's 500 deals with almost 100 student athletes. So we've had a lot going on, and the growth has been very encouraging, and the growth is actually accelerating too. So it hasn't just been linear. It's in the last, specifically the last 3 weeks, it's really taken off as well. So we're really proud of where we're at. We're really proud to be where we are. We've had a lot of wins and a lot of things we can point to, and retention of athletes that we can point to. But at the same time, we have to be competitive. And this is a new huge pillar that university sports teams are competing on for attracting and retaining talent. And I will just say, hockey is about a year behind basketball and football, but let me tell you, it's coming. And I don't want to scare anybody, but this will be something just like a facilities we're competed with, and whatever else that attracts recruits and transfers and retains talent. This is going to be probably number 1 or number 2. So it's going to be even, I could say, in hockey, just even in the last 2 months, totally different than it was 2 months ago.
Well, I noticed we've got a question here coming up from one of our favorite lawyer, the GPL lawyer. We'll get to that in a second. But first, we need to talk about one of our sponsors, FERDA Fundraisers, Vigs.
Yeah, Association hockey is underway, and that means fundraising season is coming right around the corner. FERDA Fundraisers is here to put the fun back in fundraising with staff to plan around your needs, support from start to finish, and plans to maximize your return while staying close to retail prices. FERDA prides themselves on show. GPL loves local products too. Joe Mama Salsa, Von Hansen's Pretzel Snacks, and Croy Valley Barbecue Rubs and Sauces. Visit FERDAfundraisers.com to ignite your fundraising. FERDA boys, FERDA girls, FERDA community, FERDA fundraisers.
All right. Thanks for that, Vigs. Let's go back to the big screen here. We see everybody here. And we had a question from our favorite GPL lawyer, Eric Brever. How have traditional big donors responded to the collective? Is the U concerned that donors will move to monies to the collective and not donate to the school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think everywhere this is a topic of conversation. I don't know that I'd use the word concerned. The foundations at these schools are the ones that control the 501c3 donations that ultimately get to the athletic department. And so if you ask them, it's certainly something that's on their radar. I don't know if they would consider it a threat or not, but from a donor's perspective, it's very new, and I would say a very, there's a lot of educating going on to talk. There are a lot of questions to be answered and things like that. And one of those is definitely, well, I've donated every year to the university, to the foundation fund. And okay, should I split my donation? Should I donate to NIL now? And our answer is ask the coaches. And I think right now the coaches would tell you that NIL is a priority. I'm not here to take away from anything that the foundation's doing. They have a very large budget. And just to be completely blunt, what I think the collective and what Gopher Hockey needs in order to be competitive and stay competitive is not going to erode somebody's the foundation's income. So I think that both can happen. Certainly ask for both, or people be wanting to donate to both. But I think it's fair to say NIL is a priority right now. And if that means that, some money gets shifted that way, I think that's the world we live in at the moment.
Our guy Sloth says when he wins the Powerball tonight, he's going to pledge 10% to you. So
Sounds
I
good.
think you would take that.
Yes.
Sloth, I think that's also a binding contract. We got our Eric Brever on retainer, and I think he's going to write that up for us. So thank you.
So what's the future for Dinkytown Athletes? I mean, what's your 1 or maybe 3-year kind of goals right now?
We want to support all nearly 500 student athletes at the University of Minnesota in all sports. I think that's a good goal. And I think I mean, this is a little bit, will sound a little bit ambiguous, but we need to be competitively supporting our student athletes so that in a way, it's kind of like we're supporting them so that this is looked at as a positive, or that it's in the same realm to where this isn't a negative and being played against us, right? So you have to be in the game. Believe it or not, NIL is not really about who has the most money. I think that's people's assumption when you hear about those headline deals where, well, a student athlete left here because they could go get more money here, and yes, some of that happens to a degree, but ultimately student athletes are making decisions based on a number of things. NIL is going to be one of those. So if there are 2 or 3 schools that they're considering and all 3 are giving, a amount of support that's relatively similar or kind of in the same realm, that's not the thing, right? So, but what we have seen, there's 2 things we've seen, and I'm not sure how this will affect hockey, but 2 things we've seen are student athletes in their final year of eligibility who are not going to make money in the pros. We have seen them leave to make more money because they're saying, this is my last year. I have to make money while I'm in college because I'm not going to be making it in the pros. That is a trend we're seeing. The other is, if you don't have any support or very little support, you will get players poached. You will lose those battles. So again, I'll restate it to make it super clear. We haven't seen that this is about whoever can offer the most money or have the most resources. And, it's literally comes down to, someone going to the college down the road because they can get 20% more. We're not seeing that. It's not about having the most. It's about being competitive and being in the game.
All right. I see a question from Ryan K. Are you seeing alumni playing pro sports stepping up and helping the collective? I find this a little interesting because, I believe you have a little difficulty with current pro players and trying to do stuff with them, don't you?
Not really. We
Oh.
haven't. So if you, there's some ownership. So there are some collectives that have ownership tied to pro franchises, and that's an issue. So there are a few collective owners that are part owners in basketball NBA franchises, and that becomes a conflict of interest. But no, I think in general, pro alumni, I think that is becoming a thing. First of all, we've had some really good productive conversations with the men's hockey alumni, and that's really an ambitious group that wants to support the players. And I think I don't want to give anything away, but
I've been pushing them towards you.
Okay. Well, there are some things coming up in the future that I think are going to be pretty exciting to support the collective, but it's early, so just stay tuned for that. But elsewhere, I can say around the country, there have been Michigan State NHL alumni have made a very large investment in their collective. So I think that is a thing. It's going to continue to be a thing, and I think it's a good thing. I mean, giving back to the college that you cut your chops at and had that college experience, and giving back to that, I think is great.
I like that we're seeing some retro gear, Nigerian shirts and things like that.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep, we have got some coming for hockey. So we've got some retro jerseys with alumni name, image, and likeness. And in those cases, those alumni that you're going to see have graciously donated that essentially to be able to have the proceeds from those retro jerseys go to the collective to support the current players. So look for that soon.
I see a question here. Taylor Kearns, our guy Mote. I know nothing about NAL. Can you donate to specific sport, or does it kind of need to go into one pot? And actually, you can with Dinkytown Athletes, can't you?
Yep. So as I mentioned, those 4 revenue streams. The main one, I think for our market, is going to be just fan memberships. So fan memberships start at $10 a month. It basically operates on a Patreon model. So it's $10 a month up to $500 a month, and you get different perks at each level. And when you purchase a membership, yes, you can choose to which sport or sports you want your membership to benefit. So you're not, it doesn't go into a pot unless you want it to go into our general fund. You can, if you just want to support men's hockey or men's and women's hockey or hockey and softball, I mean, whatever mix you want, you can make that election when you become a member.
Sounds like a good deal, Viggs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important. I mean, you can look at what Michigan State's doing with their hockey program. It's not just the collective. They've made lots of improvements to their arena, to their team facilities. And I was just like listening to Derek Schooley this week on USCHO, and he's like, these teams are going to be paying players to come there. And it's going to be a real problem for programs that don't have enough support to keep up, because there's only 64 Division I men's hockey programs. So there's going to be a little bit of stratification that happens, because you're not going to see, big TV money in Division I men's hockey. So it's going to be ticket sales, contributions to the programs, and contributions to collectives. So it's going to be a big part of the next decade of college hockey, I think.
Yeah. And I think that Minnesota specifically and I know there's some apples and oranges for sure, but if you look at the legacy and kind of the placement of historically of Gopher hockey being right at the top, and you look at other sports, what the challenge is, or the concern is, if we don't do NIL right, is those very top teams lose their depth. So you see that other teams will come in and try to induce, which is technically not allowed by the NCAA, but it does happen. And they'll try to lure those players that aren't on the first line, those players that aren't getting enough ice time. They'll try and lure them to their team because they're going to play more. And maybe they can, maybe they have a donor that's willing to throw a big carrot out there to try to lure them financially. So I definitely think we can deal with that here. And again, supporting the current student athletes that we have really takes that away. But if we're cavalier about this, the way that a couple of football powerhouses have been, then they've now changed their tune, by the way, but they went into this saying, hey, we're Helmet School X, like NIL, whatever, big deal. And they lost recruits and they lost talent, and now they're changing. So I think we can learn from that and just learn to get ahead of this, and just make sure that we're supporting our student athletes and all the other wonderful reasons why hockey athletes want to come to the U of M are still there.
Viggs, did you have anything else for Derek here?
I have been a big fan of your podcast with Ryan and Luke over the years, and I had a question that got onto your show this last week, and it's the bye week for the football program, so I got to get a little football talk in here before we shift on. But I pose, what's the philosophical next step for this Gopher football program? When you look at Gopher hockey, with their young players, they develop them. Right now, Oliver Moore is going to be a center for the Gophers. He's a first-round pick. He's going to play a lot of minutes. He's going to be on the power play. He scored 2 goals in the exhibition. And Moscow's just feeding him more and more to develop him. Sam Renzel, first-round pick of the Chicago Blackhawks, stepping into a blue line where there's a lot of openings with guys going on in the NHL. He is playing on a first power play unit and getting lots of time. How do you see PJ taking this football team, which has struggled a little bit this year with North Carolina and Northwestern, and then maybe getting overmatched with Michigan, continuing to develop all this talent they have? They got the 2 big freshman running backs, yep. Ethan Kalikmanis at quarterback. A lot of skill, but a lot of room to grow. What do you see happening in the second half?
Well, I that was a great question that we did address on the podcast, and I'll give you my honest answer. And I know I probably will sound like a rube, but hopefully, if anybody's listened to the Go for Gridiron Radio podcast the last few years, hopefully I built up some equity, and I really try and shoot straight, give my honest opinion. I think it's going to get better, and here's why. They've had a lot of those young guys that when I look at them, I said from game one, I don't think it's a speed, size, strength, athleticism thing with those guys. Why they're not playing as well as we want them to be. I think it's a mental. In football, we call them post snap reads, but it's being in the right position and reacting to what the other side of the ball is doing, and that you have to develop that with experience. It's not necessarily that they're missed assignments. They're doing the wrong thing. They're just a little slow in getting to the right spot, and the only way that you get better at that is seeing that play or diagnosing that play or running that play the 50th time. You're a lot better at it than you were the 5th time that you did it. So I really think that they're going to be better in the second half of the year, because particularly on defense, where they've been really solid the last 5 years of this PJ Fleck era, they've just been pretty lights out on defense. That's been a problem because they've given up big plays so far, and for the reasons that I think I mentioned. And so I think that's going to get better. I who knows how much and how quickly that comes. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think it's going to get better. They are going to get some things cleaned up on defense, and then the other side of the ball as well. You get those young guys, and they got to get some guys healthy too.
We got Brever here with another question. The resident lawyer. Here we go. Uncomfortable question. Our member, but he's a member and he's happy to do it. How are we sure that the money goes where it's supposed to? Who audits Dinkytown Athletes?
Yep. Yeah, that's a very fair question. So we are, being that we're separate from the university, we have pledged 85% of every dollar that comes in goes to Go for Student Athletes. We're transparent with the university about that. And the 15% that doesn't go to student athletes is to run the business. So there's no money in running a collective. I'll just be honest. That's not why we're doing it. There's no profit for Rob and I to run this, but 15% is at the good end of kind of what the norm is. So if you basically I'll just say this, our relationship with the university keeps us, that if there were going to be anything nefarious, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't last very long at all. So so that's those are the checks and balances that we have to make sure that somebody else is making sure that we're putting the money where it needs to go.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, Derek. It was great to have you on. Give us some education on NIL.
It's my pleasure. And if anybody wants to learn more, dinkytownathletes.com, become a member or ask questions or hit me up on social. You could find me one way or another. Happy to answer questions.
And we might have Derek come back for a little overtime a little later. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining us, Derek.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And here's a little something from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I've been part of the ball crew at numerous tennis events for years. They say I'm an excellent ball handler. It's my job to get loose balls where they're supposed to be, to make the players comfortable, so they can focus on the task at hand, winning, which is why I recommend Chill Boys life-changing bamboo boxers and boxer briefs. Chill Boys, comfort where it counts.
I thought that was a good commercial, so I thought we should run it. Chill Boys, and don't forget, use the code. Excuse me. Sorry. Go to chillboys.com. Use the promo code PullTab15 for 15% off your order. Gosh, talks amongst yourselves, these.
All right, there, Jupe. Boy, could use a little duck beer to get that throat in order. Yeah, I suppose we should talk a little bit of hockey, as this is the Puck Live podcast. That first exhibition with St. Thomas, I thought that first period was
rough,
a challenging one. Minnesota probably was a little too into their summer hockey and not necessarily on top of their competitive hockey game. I think Bob joked that, at Minnesota, we're really good at being fancy, but fancy doesn't win hockey games. And they had to work on their grit and their grease define their game. And once they did that, I thought that second period really changed. They got a couple power play opportunities, even though the power play didn't look great. It's a chance to work on against a real opponent.
Yeah.
And they started to figure some things out, which is nice to see. We saw everyone playing. Bob was rotating those 7 defensemen through the lineup. We even saw Michael a little bit, the St. John's player who's the late ad, get in there. But I thought it's encouraging for that first week. Obviously, Oliver Moore looked great, which is really nice to see for Gopher fans. And, he's going to be a good player for them this season.
I would agree with you in the slow start. I think it was 4 shots that first period, and then some feedback there. Which is that me?
I did not hear it. You're good.
Okay, well, I hear something in my ear. Something's running in the house. I'm like, what the heck is that? Yes, obviously they improved. The hit on Nevers, Viggs, you put that video out, and it quickly had a couple 100,000 views.
By the way, Chris caught me. I did say St. Thomas. I meant Bemidji. It's been a long day for me here. But, yeah, the hit on Nevers, the player for Bemidji got hit by Oliver Moore earlier in the shift, and he got hit pretty good. And I think he was like, this is an exhibition. I didn't appreciate that hit. I'm looking for something else. And as he came through the neutral zone and Nevers was kind of fumbling the puck along the boards, this guy thought, okay, here's my chance. I'm going to take a run at this guy. And I think because of some of the positioning on the ice, Nevers didn't really see him coming. It wasn't like he was coming straight at him. He was coming out of nowhere. So he didn't really see him. Yes, I know he didn't have his head up, but at the same point, this is amateur hockey. You can't take runs and pick people's heads. If he would have came from straight on and just hit him, center mass and skated right through him, that's one thing. He didn't. He came through, he picked, there's head contact. Nevers' head may have hit the ice after his helmet came off, but it's gotten over 250,000 views now on Twitter, and a lot of people say clean hit. I have to disagree. And now the Gophers will be without Nevers for at least a couple weeks. He's not practicing this week. They will get Aaron Huglin back for St. Thomas after he missed the Bemidji State series or game, which will be helpful. But it's tough for the Gophers to have these players missing the start of the season with Kester out, now Nevers out. Airy hasn't practiced yet. He skated today in his goalie gear, but he didn't really practice. That's a tough way to start the season.
Mote sounded like Missile Command. Ryan's Jupe's girlfriend running the vacuum. I just texted her. I'm like, are you running something upstairs? Because it was something kind of electronic interference that I heard, and apparently the people heard too. So who knows? I'm still on Wi-Fi right now. Hopefully by this time next week, I'll be on wired connection once I get, this room a little more clean. So we're getting there. Viggs, you saw a lot of people say clean hit, blah, blah, blah. It may have been a clean hit 20 years ago, Viggs.
30 years ago.
Yeah, but it's just, I have a problem. Oh, he hit his shoulder I'm like, the purpose of that hit is to impede his progress, to slow him down. You don't need
to separate him from the puck.
Yeah, you don't need to go in there and kill the kid. So it's kind of hard, you got a lot of old school people say, oh, it's clean hit. No, clean hit. I'm like, it was a clean hit. Why did he get kicked out? So,
yeah, it's not clean in today's game. And I think when there have been some Gophers who have had some questionable hits over the years, I have not held back. There's no risk of me not delivering some fire their way either.
If it's one of our guys doing it, I say sit them. I mean, you just can't do that kind of stuff. It's not worth it these days. It's just not. I mean, you've seen how some of these players have taken hits and hits and hits over their career. And some of them have mental issues after they're done playing hockey. Some of them die young because of it. I mean, it's crazy. So this is the new thing with sports, folks.
Yeah, I think it is.
They're trying to survive past it and have a life after sports.
Yeah, I think it is a good sign that Mason Nevers was at practice today. He wasn't at home isolating in a dark room or anything. So he's obviously feeling good enough to be at the rink. They're just going to be cautious with him. I don't know if there's any timeline for him to get back into action, but they will go through the proper protocols. Minnesota relies on their doctors to clear their players. It's not going to be a coach's decision. So no worries there.
Chris L., thoughts on Pitlick? Kind of up and down. Yeah, I was kind of talking to you about that. I'm like, he got the goal, but man, he was kind of definitely up and down that game.
Did you plant this question, Juke?
I swear I didn't.
You were in my ear about it. He did get a goal, which is good for Pitlick's confidence. I thought they did generate some offensive chances. I think there was just a little bit of timing issues. When you get to competitive hockey, you definitely need to clear the blue line and get possession, and you definitely need to have guys driving the net and getting pucks deep. And I think just the transition from summer hockey to actual competitive hockey could be an issue there. Pitlick's a really skilled player, and I think he thrives on players who think the game at a high level. And sometimes I think that thinking just comes into play there. I know the Gophers are counting on him to be one of their key players offensively on the power play, and he can drive some offense if he's given the right chance. So we'll see where he ends up. He played a lot with Huglin and Kurth. With Huglin out of the lineup, he's trying to find new chemistry with someone out there during the exhibition. So we'll see where he ends up this week.
Well, quickly, let's talk about one of our other sponsors here, Vigs. Unreal is on board with us this year as a sponsor as well. And they've also got a nice deal going for 15% off. But what can you tell us about it?
Gopher Puck Live is all about Minnesota, and so is Unreal. This company was started in 2013 by a Minnesota entrepreneur, Michael E. Jordan, who had $300 in his bank account and is growing a brand looking to leave a legacy here. We're all about people who want to invest in Minnesota, and Unreal is one of those companies. They're an independent local clothing company crafted around the athlete. They release fresh looks, the hottest drops, and donate 10% of all profits to organizations and worthy causes in our community. Visit unreal.co, that's a co, not com, and use the promo code PULLTAB15 for 15% off your order.
Definitely take advantage of that, folks. It's good stuff.
If you're a Vikings fan, look for their drops. They do these exclusive stuff. They do a lot of hockey merch. Maybe we'll see some Gopher merch besides the row of the boat stuff here soon.
Let's go. Let's go. All right, I'll take a look at some comments. Opinion on Fish. Definitely hoping to see him have a good year this year. I like that kid, Vigs. Such a solid defenseman.
Yeah, he was talking with the media today, and he had the grit and grease Gopher hockey shirt on.
Nice.
That's what he adds to the lineup. And he was looking forward to hitting someone in a real game because he's had to hold back during practice so far. He's a physical player, and he understands what he can contribute to the lineup. I thought he looked really good skating-wise. In his chances last year, he did a pretty nice job. There were a couple times against Michigan. I think he maybe got a little over the skis with himself, but he has the skill. And I think as he gets more playing time, he'll get more confident. One thing about Fish is he skated a lot this summer with Kester and Nevers. He was one of the guys who stayed home and worked out a lot with Cal Dietz and the Gopher program. And I think that's going to pay off for him this season. There's a lot of ice time out there now that Johnson, Faber, and Lacombe have gone on to professional hockey. And so I think they're looking for Fish to fill some minutes, play a little penalty kill, and give them some depth to their lineup.
Ryan K., yes, please, on the Unreal Gopher Puck gear. I like the way he's thinking. Speaking of gear, Vigs, the new jerseys look cool, according to Sue Slayer. And, we got that drop on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. 3 new jerseys. And then they pull out the road jerseys at Mariucci on Sunday.
Why not, right? It's an exhibition. You wear whatever you want.
No, they look good.
Well, I thought the gold really popped. I think some of the jerseys the last couple of years, the numbers have been
more
a little
gold on the
tricky to
shoulder.
see. Yeah.
Yep.
So these were nice to see. They were clean. They popped under the LED lighting, which I know some people maybe looked up during the game and caught a little glare from the lights. They're bright. So keep your eyes on the ice. It's like looking at the sun, with the eclipse that's happening this weekend. Don't look at the sun directly unless you have protection. Same thing with the LED lights at Mariucci.
And one thing people can say, it's darker in there. It's darker in there. I don't think people realize how the light was in Mariucci. It was so flat and it went so out over the stands that now the stands are not lit up as much. So it kind of makes the whole building look darker, but the ice is not that dark. I think it's just kind of a perception thing.
I think it's definitely a perception thing. When you're down by the ice, it looks normal and bright. I think it's just when you step back and you look into the stands, especially like we posted that video of the salute. Someone was talking about dim. Well, they kind of dim it down once the game's over. And I think you're going to see some cool light stuff throughout the season now that they have the technology to do it.
The glass, I personally was not a fan of, Viggs. A little difficult to see the angles through that glass because it's a combo. It's like a hybrid plexiglass, whatever it is. It's different, and it sounds different when the puck hits it too. But as a photographer, I was shooting straight through the glass. I was doing okay there, but some of the angles, I heard some complaints.
Yeah, I think if you're looking through the seams, you're going to have some issues. But I think it's the same glass as they have at a lot of NHL rinks. And that's what they wanted to do. They want to do that standard high-end material that they're going to be playing in at the NHL level. So I think it's just a change for Gopher fans. They'll have to get used to.
And one thing I did like is that because of the new configuration of the arena, Brever's seats down on the end behind the goal in Section 1, they're up 16 more inches. So they could see over the goal. They could see down what's in front of them a lot better. I think those seats behind that goal are going to be some pretty good seats because I sat there in the second period and for about 5-10 minutes, and it was those are pretty good seats. But as a photographer, there's some corners and nooks areas that I could never think about going to shoot from that I'll be able to do this year. So I was happy with that. Just go to a corner in the second period on the other side, and I can get the offense and get some good shots and not be worried about bumping into a fan. They didn't use the big luxury seats this past weekend. I noticed some EMTs are sitting in seats. A couple of people snuck in them. I sat in one. Frank Mazzocco and I went around the arena before the fans got in, and we got to test a couple things out. But all in all, I think the changes went over very well, Viggs.
Yeah, I think so too. The players all liked the ice. They thought the boards were great. So they're happy. So when the players are happy, the fans should be happy, I would think.
All right, Viggs, we've got one more break we've got to do here, and you know what it is.
Duke Cannon.
I got myself some Duke Cannon. You
got some?
I'm on board with it.
Yeah. Gopher Puck Live is part of the Pull Tab Sports family this year, and that means we need to make sure our hockey hair is elite. One weapon in your hair care arsenal should be Duke Cannon men's grooming products. They're a Minnesota company that makes hardworking products for hardworking men. Whether it's Serious Flow styling putty, adding some structure to your game, or News Anchor Thick Hair, which I use from time to time to increase some volume, visit DukeCannon.com, Target, or even your local hardware store for products to make your hair a weapon.
And they smell good too, Viggs. I got some. I'm like, wow, I smell good. And I got mine at Target as well. So you know, everybody goes to Target. You know where to find it, folks. I was using the News Pomade, I think it was. So it's good stuff, folks. Definitely good stuff. St. Thomas, Viggs, heading down to the X Friday night. I know you can't make it. You've got youth hockey galore all over the place, but at the X, I'm guessing there'll be quite a few Gopher fans there. Might be there'll be a lot of St. Thomas fans there as well, but it'll be actually nice to play at the X again. It's been a while for the Gophers.
Yeah, we were talking about that today. I feel like 2017 might have been the last time the Gophers had played at the X. So it's been a while. A couple of the players are saying, why not, start the year where you're going to end the year. So we'll see, since the Frozen Four is going to be at Excel at the end of the season. That's definitely their goal. That's what they're thinking of right now.
Mhm.
But it's a long way to get there. And this team, with so many losses from last season on the blue line, I think that's the big question mark. I was listening to Chris Peters and Brad Schlossman this week talk about Minnesota, and they are worried with the question marks at the Gophers defense, because they've got players who played a lot of minutes, all the special teams, and now they're gone. So this weekend, I'm really going to watch to see how Luke Middlestat, Sam Renzel run that power play, if they get power play chances. I think that's really the real critical part of this team that can push them to the top of the Big Ten and to a number 1 seed, or to the middle of the Big Ten and fighting for, NCAA bid. And
St. Thomas is looking good.
St. Thomas is looking good. They gave St. Cloud all they can handle, and they stole some points from them, in the pairwise and everything. So this will be a good test for Minnesota. Rico brought in a lot of transfers to the team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little surprised by that.
I'm not.
Well, I thought he was going to
a lot of players are going to be coming and going.
I thought he was going to do it right away, and he really didn't dip in as much as I thought he would. He waited a year to really go into the portal hard. And so this is a team that could be dangerous. Minnesota has so much depth up front with their forward group. I think they'll be able to roll 4 lines, and really, if they can get to work and not have one and done shifts, that depth will stand out against the Tommies, who probably don't have that kind of depth to compete with them. And Justin Close is healthy and should be back for both games this weekend.
Hughlin should be back as well, correct?
Yep. Huglin's been skating. He looks like he'll be fine for the weekend. That's what Bob said. We won't see Nevers. We won't see Kester, obviously. Kester is rushing back, according to Bob in his media availability today. I think caution is probably a good thing for him with his injury and making sure he's ready to come back. And I think the medical team will protect Kester from himself, because he wants to be out there.
Yeah.
Missing the start of the season is so hard for these players.
But that's very encouraging.
Season. Yeah.
It means that, they're not going to tell people what's going on. But, it's not something super serious that will leave him out for 2 months or 3 months or the year, at least.
Yeah.
Not that we see.
Yeah. If this injury is what I think it is, it's something that, with that 5 to 6 week timeline, he should be ready to go and come back to the ice. And, he can add a lot of offense to this team. He's the one defenseman who's, I think, got the best vision back there for that part of the team. And sometimes the defensemen, when they get the puck on the point, they're too mechanical, they're too direct. You think he's creative and he sees things well enough.
Renzel was on the ice a lot this past weekend. And
they are going to be giving him all he can handle.
I kind of liked it. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, Bob's really happy with his progress. He says he leaps every week. Every week he gets more and more confident. And, I notice he touches the stove quite a bit and takes chances. And when you're 6'5" and can move like he does, that gives you the ability to do that. It's going to be a learning process for him about what situations he does that in for the Gophers. But he's got a lot of talent and a lot of confidence. I think it's just getting some experience and reps. Derek was talking about this with the football team and football players, is getting reps and getting your eyes in the right spot. I think that's the challenge when you move to Division I hockey.
So how do you feel about this weekend? I mean, I think it's tough to predict when the games start. You're basically just throwing something against a wall. But what do you think?
I'm not as worried as Brad and Chris are about the Gophers defense. I think they've got, with Renzel and Middlestat, enough offense. And of course, we haven't talked about Chesley at all. Chesley's going to be...
He was all over the place too.
Yeah, he's not on the power play right now at this point, but he's going to be leading the penalty kill. He's going to be tough in the defensive zone. He's a physical player. And I think he does want to get into the rush when he gets chances. And Bob even made a Faber reference when talking about Chesley today, saying, I don't want to set expectations too high for Chesley, but there's a lot of Faber attributes in Chesley's games. I do think the one thing with Chesley that's different than Faber, Chesley wants to get into the rush more than Brock did. Brock seemed to be, I want to own the defensive part of the rink. I want to set my teammates up to get in transition. He didn't really join the rush. Chesley's going to jump up there, and he wants to get involved in the offense, which will be fun to see.
Well, it's going to be a fun home weekend no matter what, Vigs. And then it's going to lead us to kind of a special podcast next week and a special day next week. We won't be on Wednesday. We will be on Thursday. And we'll be earlier in the evening, about 7 o'clock. And where are we going to be, Vigs?
We're going to be at the Ralph.
We are going to be at the Ralph.
Let's do this.
It's going to be fun. It could be total cluster. But we're going to do it anyway because, hey, we did it. We did it live from Tampa Arena this spring. So we're going to try it here. We're going to go to the Ralph. People got us going to get us all set up in the Ralph. And, of course, Schlossman is going to join us, and then he's going to take us to the Olive Garden afterwards, or maybe before. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's a before thing so we can check out the whole deal. But that's going to be a fun one no matter what, Vigs.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I know the players are as well. They got to take care of business first this weekend.
Yes.
But it speeds up really quick. This season, the Gophers don't play a soft schedule.
No.
You may look at Bemidji and St. Thomas as maybe being an easy start, but it gets busy real quick. So can't wait.
I can't wait either. You got anything else for us this week, Vigs? I think we've covered a lot of it here. We're going to have Derek come back hopefully here in a bit.
Yeah, I think just fans look for the Gopher power play. How hard do they work for second chances? I talked about that on the podcast last week. And of course, Sunday, Bob mentioned, did you notice on the power play, Garrett Pinomini and Connor Kurth winning back second chances on the power play? So critical for this team to have guys with that kind of hunger. They relied on Matthew Nyes and Logan Cooley so much for that last year.
Yes.
This year, who's it going to be? I don't know if it's going to be Kurth and Pino every week, but they need to have guys with that kind of attitude. And that's the point of emphasis coming from the coaching staff with this group. Because I've noticed Gopher power plays aren't always tic-tac-toe. They are often fast, creating chaos, and capitalizing from the other team that can't keep up. That's one of Bob's big things. And for this team, to hit that peak, their ceiling, they need a power play that's over 25%, I think.
Okay.
This is a team that can get to 3, can get to 4, but having a good power play is going to be a big part of that.
Well, there it is, folks. The season starting. That's the best part. We kind of started last weekend with a little exhibition, but now it's for reals. Let's go. Now that the Twins are done. That you could just see it coming, Vigs. Sorry, I know, there it is. World champion.
Wore the vintage. 87. A lot of positives, though. A lot of positives.
It's tough. It's tough for us older people who grew up, for 87 to 91. So it's tough. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the GPL podcast. I want to definitely thank Derek Burns from Dinkytown Athletes for joining us. And of course, next week we'll be back on Thursday at 7 p.m. live from Ralph Engelstedt Arena. Should be just a fun show. For those of you watching live right now, stay tuned for some overtime. For the rest of you, we'll see you next week at the Ralph. You're muted, Vigs.
I got to unmute. Let's get back in the flow of things here. So we got the Rob Scheel Overtime Podcast Beer of the Week here. This is from Founders. I figured since we're playing St. Thomas this week, we had to go something that really fits what I envision Tommy's having. And what else do they have but malt liquor? So this is an imperial malt liquor from Founders, aged in bourbon barrels. This one is it's aged. It's from
Show it to us, Jake.
2017.
Show it to us.
It's from 2017, and it's 14%. So like that's what you expect out of a malt liquor. And this is an imperial malt liquor.
And Derek has joined us. Derek, are you drinking anything?
It's right.
Look at
here.
that.
I don't want to get the blur out of there. Duck beer.
There it is. Duck beer.
Derek's going to join us in crushing.
Put it in front of your face. Put it in front of your face because then it'll focus. There we go. I think it's your face. There we go. Cheers, everyone.
It's no malt liquor, though, Eric.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I know a couple of people who went to St. Thomas. And Derek, you're going to appreciate this. One of my highlights of my college football career at St. Olaf was we were bad when I started. Like we were a 2-8 team, just really struggling. We were beating our non-conference game and maybe Carleton and then getting destroyed. Mm-hmm. But by the time I got to be a junior and senior, we turned things around and we were like a 7-3 team. But we were playing St. Thomas and like a really hot early October or late September day. And we were a running team and it was hot. And we must have had the ball for 25 minutes of the first half and scored like 4 rushing touchdowns. We had like 200 yards. And I remember looking over across the sideline at these St. Thomas kids, and there are these 2 D tackles both puking because they're so dehydrated and overworked. Yep. I was like, this is so much fun.
Yep. We had a game in Baylor, so Waco, Texas, and it was non-conference, so it was early in the year, and it was the same thing. It was like 90 degrees and humid.
Is that the pickle juice game?
Yes. But here's the crazy thing. Like, talk about things that you wouldn't get away with in 2023. We won the game, but like partway, maybe 3/4 of the way through the game, where I was on offense, we're sitting on the bench in between possessions, and I look over. They had a bear, an actual bear with a chain around its neck as the mascot, and they were like dumping water on the bear because it was 90 degrees and the bear was overheating, and it was actually
Take the bear out of there. What are you doing?
They would, can you imagine? That just would never today. Like, wow, that would just never happen. But they actually had a couple handlers walking a black bear on the sidelines for the team.
Eric Brever wants to know, can we get that at Mariucci? We need to get some Duck beer at Mariucci.
Yeah, so we do have it at Huntington Bank Stadium, and in the areas that do serve alcohol in the rest of the venues, it should be there. So we'll for sure.
Brever wasn't there for the exhibition Sunday, so
okay, we should. I should confirm that on our social, but yes, it. The university's food and beverage provider has access to it for all of the venues.
I will try to get there early enough Saturday so I can do a walk around and track down locations for everybody. And I'll tweet that out.
God, somebody's saying that my place looked like Jupe's basement looks like a Menards commercial. It's a work in progress, folks. It's still being built. I've got the trim up. I've got some trim up there. Well, let me see here.
If you run into Bob at the Menards, Jupe, he often goes there on Sundays when he can't watch the Vikings.
I have not. So yeah, I got some trim up. Looks at some LED lighting.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, and then I got to put more trim, and then there's the TV getting ready to go up.
That could be your man cave?
It's gonna be my office.
Okay.
/ podcast studio / man cave. Because I moved in with my girlfriend and she had a room that I could build downstairs, and I'm building it. So
come along nice.
It's coming together nice. Like I said, I think I got to put the TV's got to be mounted. I think the mounting hardware comes tomorrow, and then flooring choice is going with carpet mote. Yeah, I'm not doing any hardware photos. It echoes down here enough anyway, so it's going to be some carpet. So, and then Ryan K 15-inch. That's not 15. It's 65.
Flip the numbers around.
Go home.
That's good.
So yeah, it's going to be a fun room. A little echoey in here now, and you can see I got a bunch of stuff. I'm not up, so you can just let her fly. So, what do you do? What do you do? What are you looking at, Viggs?
Well, I was just looking back at some of the comments that someone was making, and Ryan K just poking the bear. Why is Bob always noting observations you have, but never those that Jess attempts to make? Jess Myers, Derek is the beat writer for the Rink Live, so he's the professional in our group of media. Usually, hockey media is not as big of a crew as football media, so we don't have like the Randy Johnsons and Andy Greeters all there.
Yep.
You know,
But Randy will be there once football's over.
Yeah, Randy will be there once football's over. Rachel Blount was there today, so she'll be writing a little bit about Gopher hockey, which is always good. She's a great writer.
How's she doing?
She looks like she's doing well. She said she was doing well.
Okay, that's good.
Pat
I know she's got
Borzi's
that cancer thing going in.
Yeah, Pat Borzi isn't doing as much freelance stuff right now. He's going to be like a consultant for St. Thomas journalism students, so he's kind of moving into that for a little bit right now. But she's going to jump in and do some hockey coverage.
Yeah, the exhibition this weekend, you were pretty much the only guy up there, and then a brand new MN Daily person who was obviously nervous because it's their first time being around the coach.
Pretty green. But that's how those daily writers are. We kind of boot camp them throughout the season and bring them up to speed. We got Dylan Laux, who's the daily guy or the U guy, Gopher Hole guy, and he's doing a lot of wild coverage this year. So I don't know how much we'll see of him this year.
Brever wants a Lou Nanny jersey through Dinkytown Athletes. Lou from the Sioux.
We'll add that to our list. Yeah, we'll try and get that done. But we do have, I'm excited just the designs. So the retro stuff, excited to show the fans what we have. And obviously we have reached out to only the M Club Hall of Fame members. So every name on there is pretty notable. So anybody that we partner with is hopefully going to be a big name and some fun retro jerseys and t-shirts too. We'll do retro with the old Goldie and, that type of stuff. So
I need some Mike Crowley materials. That's what I need. I'm a big Mike Crowley guy from Jefferson, and he's in the M Club, so maybe.
Stay tuned.
Oh boy! So over time, we're pretty casual here. Like I said, Biggs will have a beer of the week.
Sometimes a bourbon of the week too. I was getting some pressure from 1010 Washington Wine and Spirits. It's one of my haunts that I go to pick stuff up. They think I need to add a bourbon, so maybe I will, depending on how OT and my voice holds up. I've been coaching a lot this month, and my voice is starting to weaken as I have to shout at a bunch of 9-10-year-olds.
Do you have a favorite beer that you've had on Overtime, or just a favorite beer in general? You said you're an IPA guy, but then you rolled out the Imperial Malt Liquor, so I'm kind of confused.
Well, I feel like I have to pull out something from a beer cellar for the beer of the week. My favorite go-to beer is Steel Toe Size 7, as some of our commenters may know. I think they're the most underrated brewery in Minnesota. If they want to sponsor us, that would be great someday, because I always have Size 7 in my fridge. So that's kind of my go-to.
Okay.
But I like variety. I like variety in everything but my wife. So.
Oh, good answer there. That was pretty smooth, Biggs.
I may have said that one before. So
I typically stick with the water.
Okay.
Unless it's the pre-Thanksgiving episode, then I get a little crazy.
Unless it's a holiday.
Yeah, if it's a holiday, or sometimes I take my birthday off and I'll.
Jupe is very responsible.
I have been known to get a little tipsy on this show.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do a Tito's Grey Duck vodka soda tasting at some point.
Yeah,
I think that could be a popular thing for Dinkytown Athletes. I don't know why everyone latches on to this latest part of Dinkytown Athletes, but I think a lot of people are enjoying it.
Yeah,
they're like, I can do that.
Yeah. I think it's been a cool rallying cry, and there's it's fun because it's all over Minnesota. So the vodka's already all over Minnesota. The beer's being distributed. It's been fun for me to we've been posting. We have an availability list. I'm not trying to sound like a salesman, but just it's been fun for me. We
Yeah.
post this availability list on our social, and it's super cool to see like these municipal liquor stores picking it up in like Roseau and Holly and like I mean just all these all over. I mean all four corner. That's just wild to me and just and awesome because then people will post online and say, yeah, I went down and got it in Albert Lee at this store or whatever. So as you guys know, that outstate Minnesota just has a huge contingency of Gopher fans and Metro, of course, too. But that's been really, I think that's part of maybe, Eric, why people are excited to rally around it because it's kind of a one Minnesota thing. And but the vodka you mentioned, that would be awesome to do a comp with Tito's because it's the same flavor profile. I mean, that's, to be blunt, like that's the target, that's the market they're going after is they don't want to be really too expensive top shelf, but they want to be good quality. So it's not bottom shelf garbage. They want to be a good, repeatable, consistent, in the middle.
But you know what, really?
Phillips Kharkov.
This
Pretty
gives,
good.
I think this gives other people who don't want to do maybe a subscription to Dinkytown Athletes. It's like, I don't want to do $10 a month. And well, you know what? I'm gonna have a little gathering. I'll go get some beer this weekend, and I'll get that. And it's like, and then they feel like they're supporting it and not having to be another subscription. So it's like it's just a different avenue of doing things that might work for some people and doesn't work for others.
Yeah, and hopefully, if the product is good enough, that was important to us. I think distribution was really important because we wanted something available all over the state. But then, I know it sounds cliche, but you can private label a beer or a vodka and just, and it could be garbage and you just try to cut corners and we didn't want to do that. So, and neither did Grey Duck. So they didn't want their name on something. So I think if the quality is good enough, then like you said, it's just switching, right? You're making a different choice and switching over to something that is going to benefit another passion in your life. So I think it's a cool, and I mean, to be honest, other collectives that have done this, we're not the first, certainly. And if people really jump on this, there's a big financial benefit to Gopher Athletes. I mean, it has potential for sure.
And you're seeing people, I notice a lot on Twitter saying, you guys should do this with a pizza company, or you guys should do this with cookie. They're clamoring for this type of thing, not just beer and whatnot. So there might be other opportunities for you.
Yeah, we are looking. I don't want to give anything away.
Well, you definitely don't want to give anything away because that's what I mean. It's like the fans are saying, this would be great if you did this or if you did that. And it's like, that's a company in Minnesota. That might be a good thing to look into.
To find something that that people are already consuming, are already doing, and so they could they can make a shift. I think makes a lot of sense. And the other thing that I think was really cool when we first launched the beverage was a lot of companies in Minnesota, they use the one Minnesota, or they try to trumpet that as a marketing gimmick. Let's be honest. And what's really cool about Grey Duck is they're actually walking the walk. I mean, they're a Minnesota company. They're giving back to a Minnesota organization who's supporting Gopher Athletes. So I mean, it really is. I mean, it's real. It's not a, hey, but just buy us because we're in Minnesota and we just want your money. I mean, it's a cool thing because it really is a kind of a circle.
Well, Viggs, you don't get any more Minnesota than Grey Duck.
I know. It's like in our intro with Closer, yeah.
With Closer, he's like Goose. Of course he said Goose because he's Canadian.
Yeah. We'll have to get him back and he'll go, okay.
I wonder if he gets it. Well, he understood it, I think, already, but maybe he's converted now.
Well, maybe now that there's the partnership, he'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
You've converted me.
Everything worked out good with him. Heard good feedback and everything with having him.
Yeah, I went over and talked to him on media day and said, just thanked him and things like that. It was the first time I really kind of just kind of talked to him that's not in a media setting. He was kind of off to the side, and it was fun to just kind of BS with him for a few minutes.
When he's in front of the media, he's pretty locked in. So you got to get him when he
Mhm.
goes to the side a little bit because
Mhm.
he's like a goalie. He's very focused on what's
Yep.
at hand and doesn't want to
Yeah.
be tricked by a Jess Myers question. So he's very focused.
When we when we reached out to him last summer, it was spring summer, we let him know, hey, we want to have 2-3 guys that we want to support and get going on this. And so we reached out to him and Cooley and Snuggerud, and I got on he wanted to call me, so I got on the phone with him, and he's like, do you know I don't have any social media? And I was like, yeah, don't worry about it, that's fine. And because I think he thought, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to partner on stuff and do some shirts and interviews and stuff like that? And we're like, yeah, it's okay. So it's he's a really cool guy, really mature guy, and I mean, just fun to work with.
So I
And
don't
then
want
Cooley
to.
bails on you. Jeez.
Yeah, I don't want to pull back the curtain too much, but like, how is it that Closer, Snuggard, and Cooley were like the 3 first guys for hockey?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, we want to. So it's a good question. So when we build support within any given sport, as I think I mentioned before, we pool the money. So if people purchase a membership, make a donation, what have you, and they denote, hey, men's hockey is who I want to support, we pool that money together, and then we add guys to those contracts or add contracts to guys within those sports as we get more money. So we had, to start with, we had enough to support 2-3 guys, and we just chose who we thought the fans would want us to provide content for. So that's usually how it goes. We're trying to find the guys that have the most notoriety, the most value with the fans. I mean, it's called name, image, and likeness for a reason. So we're trying to find the guys that have the highest value of name, image, and likeness, because ultimately what we're trying to do is provide fan engagement. So we're doing those interviews, we're creating the shirts and the jerseys and that sort of thing, and so we want the guys that the fans want. So that was the reason there. But ultimately, I mean, I think this, especially for a sport like hockey where you got 28 guys, I mean, this could be team wide eventually, so I think that's where we want to get.
Nice.
Yeah, it's always interesting with the hockey guys because some of them, like Oliver Moore, already has like CCM stuff happening.
Yep.
He's a CCM athlete, just like Matthew Nyes was last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. He's done some fun social stuff with them where he'll be testing their equipment and they'll be filming him and they'll be filming his workouts. And it's crazy. Like you talk to the players, they're like, yeah, Oliver works for it.
Yeah.
He's legit. He works out before practice.
Mm-hmm.
He competes hard in practice, wants to win, battles. After practice, he puts in the time, and he's just very disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's definitely earning his keep with his teammates in terms of the respect they give him for the work he puts in.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, at Dinkytown Athletes, nothing we do is exclusive. So we encourage the athletes to do one-offs with other brands, with other influencer stuff, because we're not, we want them to maximize whatever they can get. So that's awesome when they reach out and they get a direct deal with a, like you said, a equipment manufacturer, whoever. So it's gonna be fun though. We got a lot of fun stuff. We've thought about doing for Snuggerud, trying to do like a branded Snuggie blanket, like a maroon and gold Snuggie. And we thought about, so our vendor that we have shockingly, it's not one of their normal items, so it would kind of be a one-off. But if fans want something like that, that's something maybe we could pool together and do like a pre-order or something. And if we get enough people, we could make it happen. I think that would be fun, and I could see fans at Mariucci,
in the student section for sure.
That's yeah.
Like
Yeah.
One of the things about the exhibition game, the students showed up. Like there's a Twins game, there's a Vikings game, and they still filled their 3 sections. It was super impressive.
It has been awesome, you guys. That generation has been awesome. I think they really value those shared experiences and those events. And football student section has been, I mean, the last 2-3 years has been just amazing. And so it's great to hear that hockey too. It's so fun. The hockey student section is so fun. I mean, that in and of itself, it's all entertainment. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it totally makes the venue pop. I talked to Mike Wiersbicki, who does a lot of ticket sales for the U, and he just says they make the atmosphere. When the students are there and engaged and loud and active, it makes the whole venue better.
Yep.
Even if you're just going to be up in the suites, watching the students is a
Yeah.
totally different experience than
Yeah.
if they're not there. Like a winter break game where they don't show up.
Yep.
Totally different.
Yep. We had a fan or a member barbecue this summer where we invited our members, and we had a bunch of basketball and football and women's basketball student athletes, and we did like a trivia game, and they really had fun with it, and the fans liked watching them have fun. It was just this weird dynamic where like those guys were really having fun and laughing and teasing each other, and like they're competing like at this trivia game, and the fans really enjoyed that just because they like the back and forth between the athletes. So it's kind of that same thing you talked about where you could just go and watch the student section and enjoy them reacting to things.
There's a new thing going on where you can rent a building and they basically play a game show for you, and your friends can be the audience and you can be
Heard
the
of that.
contestants, and you could do like a Family Feud, or
Yes.
you could do like whatever. I'm telling you, Derek, that could be a winner where you
Okay.
put like
Yeah,
the
I've
men's
seen like
basketball team against the women's basketball team and men's hockey against women's hockey. I
Yeah.
think it'd be pretty funny.
yeah, I know that's like a companies can rent that, right? Like you can do it as
Yeah.
a company, and yeah,
Like a
that's-
team building, like a
yeah.
team building activity.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
that'd be
fun.
really fun.
I'm just ideas guy over here, just spinning. It's the malt liquor. It's the malt liquor. It's just
The Imperial malt liquor.
because a malt liquor isn't strong enough.
Yeah,
on its
right.
own. So
Yeah.
founders,
Yeah, It's too light on its own. So
yeah.
There's Brever saying, students having fun, especially athletes having fun, is a huge difference maker for me.
these guys have been great to work with. I know it's sounds super cliche to say like all these, they've been great individuals. I mean, seriously, I look at my generation and we were taught to be boring. Like we just interacting with the media, you had to be robotic. And it's been really cool to interact with these young student athletes now of this generation. They're very entrepreneurial. They're very social. They get it. They want to create things all the time. They're really excited. I mean, some of these deals that we put together for them, I think they're more excited about doing it than earning the money. They just want to experience, I get to do my own selfie video where I create this. And we had I think it's actually a free video now on our YouTube, but we had a bunch of the football guys, one of them cooking chicken wings for the other guys, and then they were interviewing him while they did that. And like same thing, they love doing it. They're just laughing and throwing out jokes at each other. And I think they would have just done that for free probably.
Vig's years ago, we used to see MSC go into like the freshman or let's say the sophomore house for hockey. And they would do a whole bit that they would have during like in between, periods. They'd check the house out, who's the cook, who's the messy guy, all this stuff. They would do that type of stuff. Obviously production things and everything's a little different these days. We don't see those type of specials anymore. But that's definitely something that Dinkytown could do.
Yeah, like Jackson Nelson, they just did a thing where he went back to his hometown.
But the U did that, so
you did that,
and that's coming out, I think, next week, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of fun stuff that they have going on.
Yeah,
Derek, you played for Mason, right?
Yeah, my first year was Mason's first year.
Yeah, what was that experience like going, from Eden Prairie to Minnesota and playing for him at that point?
That was a different generation. I mean, I would characterize college football back then was very regimented, very physical. And it's just a good thing now. They protect the athlete's health a lot more than they did back then. I think you dealt with probably more injuries and things like that in my generation. So I'll be honest with you, football was a grind. I mean, you have so many workouts and practices for just these very few games. So, I mean, that jumps out as you earned it. I mean, you earned your scholarship for sure. But Glenn Mason was an old school coach, a very good football coach, a fundamentalist. So it was fundamentals first. He knew that to turn around a program like Minnesota, you weren't going to immediately have the best talent. You had to do it with fundamentals, limiting mistakes, and that. And back then, it was running the ball and playing defense. Now, I think defense is still a factor. Running the ball is becoming less important than it's ever been. But
Unless you're PJ Fleck.
yeah, well, he's a throwback. I mean, that's his Jim Tressel. Is that's who he kind of follows that lead of who he coached for. So yeah, it was. But the experience if of being a student athlete in college is, I mean, it's one of a kind. Really proud to be able to have had that experience. And for football, yes, there's a lot of work, but the games are incredible, a lot of fun. It's just a unique experience to play in front of that many people. So you cherish those memories for sure.
The old dome.
Yep.
And that surface was very hard, folks.
Yeah,
I never played football on it, but I've been on it many times, and yikes.
Yeah, they ended up putting, I think, field turf in the last few years of that, which was marginally better, but still hard. But before, the field turf was concrete and fake grass on top of concrete.
And that's what I played on when I played in the Dome. My high school, we played our last game of the year at the Metrodome.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I played at St. Olaf, the last MIAC game of the year was at the Dome. I think we might not have done it my senior year, but my freshman through junior year, we played there. And you'd wear long sleeves as an offensive lineman, because you're just like, I'm going to tape them up. I'm not going to get any rug burns. And then, I don't know if people know this, but like at the old Metrodome, as a player, it's hot.
Yep.
Because like there's no wind or anything, and it's just like warm. And so you just sweat a ton. It's so uncomfortable for an offensive lineman who's not trying to get cut up because you're on the ground so much. And
I think your body's acclimated to, playing in 40-degree weather by that point too. So it's that big change, from that. And we had a high school game there one year that was obviously late in the year, and there was snow on top of the dome. So they actually had to turn the heat up. Normally it was always 72 degrees, but I think they had to turn it up to like 80 to melt the snow off the roof. And so it was hot.
As soon as the Gophers moved back to campus at TCF and now Hunting Bank, I bought season tickets because I'm just like, I love outdoor football. I love that experience. And
what's the future of field turf, guys? I think it might be in trouble for one thing. Gosh, I remember you go down the field down there at Huntington Bank or even the Metrodome, not the Metrodome, US Bank, so many banks. It smells like you're in a Goodyear tire factory.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder how much these players are inhaling and swallowing rubber pellets. How long until there's some, players getting cancer from rubber pellets? I mean, it's just, I have concerns about that stuff.
The interesting thing for me to watch, because there has been a push. I mean, the NFL Players Union has been the most vocal about injuries, not to mention potential, carcinogens like you're talking about, but just injury wise, they've I think started the drumbeat of, we got to get rid of this. We got to go to natural turf. So, okay, that there's a path to that. They've started doing that in Europe with the soccer teams there. But if you are in a climate that you can't grow outdoor grass, like they have this in Arizona but it's like ridiculously expensive because you have to grow it underground with the grow lights or whatever. So there's a path to that. But let me tell you, the last people on earth that are going to step forward and pay for that are the NFL owners.
Yeah.
And the first people that can afford it are the NFL owners. But there's my guess is like, if that happens, they're somehow going to find a way to get somebody else to pay for it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think Barcelona built a new football stadium, and it's got that system where they grow the turf with grow lights, and then they can like machine it up to the playing surface and rotate it around. It's like, man, how many billions of dollars are they spending on that stadium?
It was billions, I think, is what I read. Yeah, with a B. That's wow.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Mariucci Arena needs like a $20 million improvement plan for their concourse and facilities. That's like the next phase. Actually heard Dusty Clements talking about this during the Northwestern game, I think, at halftime. He's saying, hey, this is our next big project. And it's like, it's a struggle for them to even do a $20 million project right now.
Yeah.
That's coming, folks. If they can fundraise it, it's going to come not this offseason, but the next. Because next season's the Ritter Arena improvements, where they're going to redo that ice surface with the new refrigeration. And then the year after that, hopefully they can do the concourse improvements.
I like the improvements, Viggs.
No, I think it makes a difference. It should help this team as they get close to the playoffs. Derek, I don't know if you know this, but the rink used to be 100 feet wide and have super deep corners, and now they shrunk it to 89, which is close to the NHL 85. So it just brings the action closer to the net, tightens everything up, makes the game faster, harder to play defense.
And when was the first game? Did they just have the first game on the new?
On Sunday.
Exhibition just past Sunday night.
Just the exhibition. Yeah. Okay, that was the first one. Was there? Did you guys pick up on differences in the pace of play or the game and all?
I felt like they were forechecking more aggressively. Usually what happens on the Olympic ice is if a team establishes possession in their own zone and you aren't on them, you just back up and kind of play a trap. I felt like during the game, and I asked Rhett Pitlick about this after the game on Sunday, is like, was it just because it was your first game as an exhibition, or is it the smaller ice sheet? And he's like, maybe a little bit of both.
Okay.
You know, being a good player where he doesn't tell the media anything, just
commit to anything.
whatever you think is fine is the answer.
When are the chillers being turned on? Isn't it? I think it might be like this week or
I think after the North Dakota series they might try it.
Okay, because I know they're still on a temporary ones right now.
Yeah, they rented a refrigeration truck basically. It's like a temporary one, and they are paying like $100,000 a month to use it. So I imagine they want to get that full month and then transition.
Pay for a month, I will use it. Oh, it's going to be fun this year, though, Viggs. It's going to be fun. Are you going to be able to make it Saturday night?
Saturday, I'll be there for sure.
Nice.
Okay, one more drink just because it's fun. I pulled this one out for some of our expert bourbon drinkers.
Wait, hold on a second. Let's go full size here.
Which Old Forester, though?
Look at
this.
This
is a birthday bourbon. So this is a fancy one. So this is my 1010 Washington Wine Spirits Bourbon of the Week. I won this in their raffle that they do around the holidays. They have all their rare bourbons and they release them. So this is from that. I've only had it once. So
apparently Mankato used temporary for 2 years.
That would be expensive.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is fun. It's an 11-year-old bourbon.
Wow, and then thank you for the beverage you gave me Sunday evening, Viggs.
Yeah, hope you
I'll
enjoy
have to dip into that eventually. Oh, there it goes.
Smells amazing. It's like Bananas Foster. The malt liquor was good, but it's kind of malt liquor-y, so it's not as much of a flavor beer. It's bourbon and malt liquor. So
are you normally an Old Forester guy with bourbon?
He's normally an anything kind of guy.
Okay.
Well, I like variety.
Yes.
Maker's Mark is kind of like my routine bourbon, like for Manhattans and stuff. That's what I go to. But I like variety. Buffalo Trace if I find it. But I like Old Forester, the 1910, Old Fine, the 1920. I like to combine them in a decanter and have a 1915 around. So I don't know. Some people don't like Old Forester for the banana Foster kind of flavor to it, but I enjoy it. I think it's kind
I think I would like that.
It's kind of like a little bourbon candy. As I like to tell people, it's like vanilla, caramel, bananas, cloves.
Like a brandy?
Baking spices. I mean, maybe if it's good brandy. But some Knob Creeks I like. Knob Creeks are good. Weller obviously is nice. Antique 107 is one of my favorites if I can find it. So
Mhm.
I like variety, Derek. Variety seeker.
I don't think I don't know if I've had Old Forester. I'm a Four Roses single barrel is probably my go-to. That's my favorite. But I like a variety too. I mean, Buffalo Trace. Not a big makers guy.
Okay.
It's okay, but I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't choose it. But I don't think I've had Old Forester. Any of the bonded stuff I found is pretty. I mean, just about anything that's bonded is pretty quality. So
Yeah, the Heaven Hill bottle and bond stuff
Mhm.
has been showing up lately, which we
Mhm.
haven't seen for a while in Minnesota. Minnesota is not a
Yeah.
great bourbon state. It's hard to be
Yeah.
a bourbon drinker here.
Yeah. People have said, I know they're making more bourbon. The owners of Shell's Brewery, a couple of them have a distillery that's coming up, and there are more and more. But people have, and I don't know enough about it, but people have said it's really difficult in Minnesota because it doesn't get hot enough in the storage. You know, when you're aging it, and so you either have to artificially raise the temperature or you got to age it for like forever. It's just not hot enough. So
Yeah, because you need the warm temperatures for
Yep.
the wood to open up
Yep.
and accept the bourbon, and
Yep.
then get cold enough in the winter to force the bourbon out.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it can be tricky.
Yep.
The way that I think Minnesota bourbon could be better is if they toast the barrels
Yeah.
aggressively, give it that heavy char. I
Mhm.
don't know if you've ever had a Parker's Heritage heavy char. It's outstanding. Really, really good stuff.
Well,
I
it'd be
took
interesting to see
to my
what they do.
friend's house in Duluth, and we sampled many bourbons that one night.
Yeah, to say the least. Ooh.
But Eagle Rare is kind of my go-to, but it's just become increasingly difficult to find.
And that's not that expensive, right? It's just difficult to find. Okay.
Yeah, it's like $35, 750 bottle. It's just 10 years ago, you could just go and get
Yeah.
it whenever you want it. You can go buy a case. And now it's like the liquor store gets it and it's gone. So
That's I guess some people might like that. They like the bourbon hunting, and there's some gamesmanship in that. I just find that kind of annoying. It's if you go, if you want best in class beer, like you could just walk into it, you can go get well, I suppose there definitely are limited stuff, but if you want the best German beer or Belgian beer in the world, you can just go in, and it might be a little bit more expensive, but it's pretty readily available. That's kind of a bummer with bourbon, at least for me, is you research and find these ones you want to try, and then it's like, okay, well, you can't get it, and when you get it, it's marked up in price and whatever. So
well, I'm pretty faithful to two liquor stores. So 1010 Washington
they
Wine
treat you
Spirits
right.
my one, and then Stinson Wine Beer and Spirits is my other one.
Yep.
So Stinson is usually more my beer place, and sometimes bourbon, and then 1010 is usually more my bourbon and wine space. But I treat them both very well. My wife says maybe it's a problem that they like you so much.
So
Like-
when you come in there like Norm from Cheers, they go, Vigs!
Kind of. Yeah, they're kind of like, Vigs, how's it going? How's the hockey team? How's the baseball team? How's the podcast? They all know.
So am I wrong about the beers that are there? I'm sure there are beers that are really hard to find that are exclusive, but
Yep.
or is it more so with bourbon?
No, there are beers that it used to be more 10 years ago or 5 years ago. There were certain beers that would come out and they'd be released, and you'd have to either know somebody or go there the morning it gets released, and you'd get some. Now, I think there's been a little bit more market saturation where there's a lot more out there. And so those beers hang out a little bit longer, but there still are some things that are just limited and they don't make very many. The stores don't get very many. So
Do you enjoy that aspect of it, like trying to find the rare stuff, or is it a nuisance?
I just kind of take what I get.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to be their best customer,
Yeah.
As much as my wife says, obviously they treat you well because you go
And
there a
there's
lot.
there's plenty of good product, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of good product. I don't need to have the Pappy 25.
Right.
But, a lot B, Pappy, Van Winkle, is nice every couple of years to try. So
How big was the lot that Rob Shield gave you for the beer of the week?
Yeah, he gave me about 20 or so beers, maybe 24
Wow.
beers to enjoy during the podcast this year. So that's nice. And a lot of it, with beer, it's kind of like wine, these big beers, the stouts at least. And you want to give them like 4 or 5 years to kind of mature. That's almost like a wine that way. Bourbon, like once you get it, it doesn't change. I mean, unless you open it and it oxidizes.
Yeah.
So, but I don't need every bourbon, but over my life, I guess I'd like to try a bunch of different ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so getting this birthday bourbon, probably will never get another birthday bourbon bottle again. That's fine. I'll try something again in a couple years. But my advice to everyone, make friends with your local store owner. Let them know your name, know their name, build a relationship, buy Duck Duck beer and Grey Duck and whatever bourbon or beer of choice you also like. Yep.
Yeah,
Enjoy.
I know Dinkytown Athletes. I think they tagged GPL
Mm-hmm.
in some of those posts. And there was it seemed like thousands of people replying and liking
Yeah.
that stuff, showing their beer, showing where they're at, where they got it, and all that good stuff. So it's been fun to kind of see how crazy it's been the last couple weeks.
I think the intro, when we introed the beer and then when we announced the vodka collaboration, both of those posts I think had 150,000 views or something like that. I mean, was wild. It's just been really cool, really fun to see the fans embrace it.
Very nice. Well, I'm tired, boys. I need to call it a night.
All right.
But
glad to have you on, Derek.
Yes, thank you both. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the support.
It's definitely fun to have you on, and thanks for getting Mr. Close for us, and thanks for the nice relationship we had this summer and pushing everyone towards it. It worked out great for everyone, so that was really good. So
let's do it again. Let's get some
more.
We
will, and we're gonna keep you on hold here.
Okay.
For down the line. So we're gonna need you maybe in March or something like that. Whenever something big comes up for an NIL, you're our guy. So
all right, sounds good.
Keep doing those breakdowns too, the O-line breakdowns of what's going on. As an O-lineman, I think the people need that.
Okay, well, there's it's a little nerdy, but I think some people enjoy the technical part of it. So I enjoy it, and I'm glad people like it.
I'm a big inside zone, outside zone guy, but pin and pull's fine too. So
right.
All right. Thanks for watching, folks. And we'll see you people at the Ralph next week.